Great. So good evening. I'm going to go ahead and call the roll to establish a quorum. So Nicole,
Here.
Michelle,
Here.
Robbie,
Here.
Paul. Paul, I can see. Oh, there you go. Awesome. Having established a quorum, I hereby call the News Charter School Board of Directors meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. on April 27th, 2021. I will now read our ethics statement. Conflict of interest reminder per North Carolina General Statute 138A-15E. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course you have an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. All right, moving on to the reading and approval of the March meeting minutes. We can read these aloud or silently, or if everyone has read them, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Ms. Booker, so moved.
Is there a second? Perfect. Are there any corrections or any discussion? Okay, then let's go ahead and vote. Nicole.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Rodney.
Aye.
Robbie.
Aye.
And Paul.
Aye.
Wonderful. Minutes are approved. All right, Brad, do we have anyone for public comment?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much. We also have no guest discourse this month, although Dr. Carpenter is joining us. Welcome. Thank you for being here. All right. And Dr. Edwards, do we have any correspondence from our authorizer?
We do one thing. We heard from DPI that the approved calendar that we had put forth in February, which had contained 5 digital days per their request, now no longer needs to contain 5 digital days. So I have to revise the calendar, pull those out, and I will bring that back to the board for approval in May.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that update. And with that, I will floor for your superintendent's report, Dr. Edwards.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this evening I have for you the second piece of the strategic plan. I also want to just let you know that we are working on 4 things for approval in May. That is our teacher performance rubric that we'll reference in the strategic plan, the calendar revision that I just mentioned, the summer project list and the budget, and the resource development review. And then this evening, in addition to the strategic plan, I will be requesting approval for the 21-22 work agreements, the strategic plan, and the renewal for our financial auditor. So moving into the second piece of this plan, we built the strategic plan with the end in mind. And so what this document is a list of goals that we will achieve by the end of 2024. And I will show you briefly what this looks like. This has an introduction. These are the goals that we plan to achieve. Then it gives an operational context. It lists our critical objectives. The formatting is off, I'm sorry. The focused strategies that we had listed in our development I'm so sorry. It does look like something happened. I clearly know that staff has 2 Fs. And then it concludes with 2 appendices for Domain 2 and Domain 4 that will be mentioned. I'm going to see if I can't make this right. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment. Please pardon me. I'm going to see if I can open up the right one, because that is going to be frustrating to go through all of those. Just one moment. Okay. My apologies. We're back now. Okay, this is better. I went through the whole document. I'm going to go back through it because it wasn't very pretty the first time. It lists the critical objectives. It lists our focus strategies and our measures. And then it has the 2 appendices for Domain 2 and Domain 4 that Ms. Nowicki will speak about in just a moment. So this introduction is also a conclusion. It can function in both ways. It is the list of the 10 things that we will accomplish through this plan by the end of 2024. I will go through those and explain as I work through this. But first of all, I want to mention when I was talking with Dr. Carpenter, when this whole process began, we talked about kind of just noting some realities prior to or going into the 2021 school year, mainly just so that we can look back and see that these challenges have now become areas of celebration and success for news. But moving into this current school year, these are just 9 things that were identified as challenges that have plagued the organization. An unclear, weak mission. What do we stand for? Who are we? Initially, that was a very strong thing, but as the 14 years have grown and gone past, that has changed. As education does, it evolves. High turnover at the administrative level. We have 6 administrators. 3 of them were new to news this year, including myself. 5 of the 6 were new to their position. A lack of direction regarding the campus growth. Do we add students? Do we add facilities? There was a lot of mixed ideas about that. COVID-19, it just speaks for itself. Some historical ongoing tension between the stakeholders, the staff, the board, community. Weak instructional leadership. A lot of new initiatives were pushed through. Not a lot of support for those, or someone's got a really great idea, let's see what happens, and then there's no follow through. Challenge of understanding what a high performance culture is and how it operates. There was no strategic plan, and there was no reliable way to measure student progress outside of North Carolina normed assessments. And so looking at the fact that we are teaching and getting our students prepared for a global world, global experience in college and in their careers, we need some nationally normed assessments. Now, just based off of those things, we can already at the end of 2021 see some of the areas that we walked into at the beginning of this year as being a challenge and have now become a moot point for us as we've worked through a lot of these things already. The critical objectives that were listed in the plan presented in March are also here, just as a reminder that these are the things that we're going to do. Overarching goals of igniting student performance and eliminating needless gaps, reflecting the cultural attributes common to high-performing North Carolina K-12 schools and beyond. And then the community will embody the values defined in the new charter school portraits.
Dr. Edwards?
Yes?
Could you make that just a little bit bigger for those of us with eyes over 50? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. I struggle with that too. Yes, not a problem. So then when we move into the strategies, we developed a goal for each year. Now, the first page identifies the goals by the end of this plan, but these are goals per year within the 3 years that this plan will be in place. And so, excuse me, our first focus strategy of targeting resources to provide high caliber curricula and meaningful professional development. I'm going to reference our teacher performance rubric. I'm going to reference domain 2. In focus strategy, I'm going to reference domain 4. And when I finish with these two, Ms. Nowinski is going to speak to specifically what those are. But for now, the goal in the coming school year is that 100% of our staff are trained on this teacher performance rubric, that our professional development reflects the instructional needs that are identified in those rubrics and in those observations that we conduct. Moving forward, 100% of our department heads and grade level leads will be proficient in domain 2. And by the end of this plan, 75% of our core content teachers will be proficient or higher in domain 2. We put 75% just because we recognize that there's turnover, and this performance rubric is rigorous and it is detailed. And we're quite proud of the work that's been put into it. We have beta tested it this year, and it has yielded tremendous data for us about our teachers and our students and how our classrooms are being run. Focus strategy number 2, we will implement strategies to raise collective teacher efficacy. Again, this year, our goal is that we get everyone trained and fully versed on this rubric, and that we provide this professional development to reflect the needs that are identified through those observations. Goal 2, by the end of 23, 70% of our staff are proficient or higher in domain 4. Our department chairs and grade level leads are 90% proficient or higher in domain 4. By the end of this plan, 80% of all staff are proficient or higher in domain 4. And our department chairs and grade level leads will be 100% proficient or higher in domain 4. So I'm going to roll down now to the Appendix A and let Ms. Nowinski talk a little bit more about these.
Okay, so domain 2 focuses on instruction, really looking at, are we executing purposeful, effective, and rigorous learning opportunities for all of our students? It includes a rigorous rubric, which outlines the behaviors and actions that make learning visible to anyone who visits a classroom. Moving to domain 4, that is aligned with a high performance culture. So are we reflective practitioners who embrace a mindset of continuous improvement and accountability? This part also includes a rubric that defines behaviors necessary to evaluate our impact on student learning in a collaborative and professional way. Dr. Edwards, I don't know if you needed me to go any more detailed than that, but that's the summation of those 2 domains and what it is that we're looking for in our staff.
Thank you. Get back to focus strategy number 3. We will be intentional about consistently recognizing student and staff accomplishments. For the next 2 years, we are going to work to establish NOOS traditions that are indicative of, representative of, inherent to what we do on a daily basis in honoring our staff and our student accomplishments. Some examples below would be a unique awards program instead of an end of the year awards where there are honor roll, perfect attendance. And while those things are wonderful outright, we also want to create some traditional awards that we give to our staff and our students that are based on our portraits and based on the characteristics therein. Our MAP growth awards, as our students continue to achieve and exceed their growth goals, we want to create some unique ways to celebrate that. We've tried a few things this year. We created a celebration video. We've handed out Smarties. And there's some fun things that the Academy directors are putting into place for this round of MAP growth celebrations as well. I believe a dance party is coming soon. But just some spirit-filled, unique to Noose traditions. The other piece there as a possible example of that is our Raising the Bar teacher recognition. We've quietly done this just a little bit in the last couple of weeks by having admin and some staff members submit Raising the Bar teacher recognition forms that have been read over the morning announcements. And it seems to be really kind of raising the spirits of a lot of people. And so that might be something that we stick with. But the point to this is that we don't want to just do something to do it. We want to establish the traditions that are going to carry on long beyond this strategic plan. And maintaining those is the end goal for us. As we've established them, we've put them into practice, and now we're going to continue to do those, all based around a high performance culture. Focus strategy number 4, we will exemplify the portraits that were explained in March for a staff member, a parent, community member, and a student. And so for this year, there will be, I'm going to speak to B for just a quick moment, there will be an end of the year survey this year given to students and to parents, students in 6 through 12. And we're going to use that data to work towards item B, but I'm going to go back to A for a second. Part of this is that we need to create a baseline of understanding for our equity audit. And that's how we're going to do that, is through a cross-curricular equity audit, where our staff will work to look over the materials that they've used over the past year and identify texts and passages and pieces of curriculum that they have used that have been representative of diverse voices and perspectives. We want to create that process so that in 22-23 we can kind of evaluate and address those iniquities. It's really hard sometimes for people to see things that they can't see or know things that they don't know. And so one of the ways to do that is for us to really ask them to evaluate what their practice is and what their content is that they're using. In going back to B and talking about the end of the year surveys for this year, we want to use that data really to create a baseline of understanding for the parent and the student experience. What are their days like? What are they experiencing? What are they sharing at home? COVID has been so unique in that it has really taken a lot of that away from us in terms of being able to see it and interact with them on a daily basis. And so we want to hear from them on how they're doing and how they're feeling. And then we're going to take that data and we're going to continue to refine those surveys, continue to drill down into their experiences. And then our goal is that we're going to be able to trend track positive parent experiences, positive student experiences based on that data. And then by the end of this, we want to continue to be working with our staff on equity and inclusion so that 95% of them can identify on their own text, stories, articles that showcase representation of a variety of people. And then we want to continue trend tracking positive student and parent experiences as we continue to see favorable growth towards an established environment of equity and inclusion. But again, this one is critical for us because we need to develop that baseline first. And then focus strategy number 5 is a bit bigger in terms of the goals that we want to accomplish. But essentially, the comprehensive communication plan we want to have yield for us. I'm going to summarize all of this down here at the bottom because a lot of it does repeat. That by the end of this plan, that we have been able to reduce the disparities in perception versus reality. We want what the perception is to be what the reality is, and that's not always going to be at 100%, but our goal is that it is very, very close. We cannot give the parent participation a percentage simply because we can't control who does and does not complete that. But our goal is going to be to continually just increase that number, increase the participation of surveys and teacher conferences over the rate of the 22-23 school year. We want to use all of that data to work towards reducing the withdrawal rates of our students, reducing the turnover, and ultimately increasing the enrollment. We want to have a 90% participation rate. The reason we put 90 here is because we hope to be able to give this self-assessment and survey to our students on campus. We want to be able to use that voice to really beef up our marketing efforts to recruit and retain top quality teachers and staff, and then utilize some of that data to reduce staff turnover. As a teacher, I found a lot of my most meaningful feedback came from my students, and that student voice is critical to the ongoing spirit of the school. And so using some of that data to market, these are what our students are saying. This is what their experience is. This is a fantastic place to learn and to work. Please come join. In thinking about unique ways to recruit and retain, that student voice is important to us. And then finally, maintaining a robust resource development plan. Over the next 3 years, we are going to partner with someone who is going to inform and develop and then help support us as we get our resource development plan off the ground and then in a space to be maintained by the end of 2024. So I'll roll back up here now because, as I said, this could also be the conclusion. What you see here are all of the end goals that we have in mind for the conclusion of this plan, but also understanding that we've had a very unique year. There are a lot of pieces of data that we wish we had that we don't. And so we're really working towards implementing all of our initiatives in the 21-22 school year, from academic, cultural, and operational with 100% fidelity. I also want to recognize that most of these goals are cultural and operational in nature. And that is because later the ad hoc committee will present the academic goals that will accompany the strategic plan. And so with that, I will entertain any questions or comments or thoughts or feedback.
Well, I will just say, Dr. Edwards, and thank you to you and to your whole team for putting all of this together. Clearly, we knew last month that a lot of thought and effort went into the development of the strategic plan, but this really helps to flesh out, a lot more of the details and sort of show us the step by step how you see this being implemented and what you see it looking like over the course of the 3 years. And it's a lot of information, but it's all my perspective is that it's all very clearly well thought out. It's progressive, which I really like, in that you're not trying to bite off more than you can chew. They're challenging goals for each year, so you're stepping it up as you go. But I would just say again, thank you to you and your whole team for doing that. Do any of the other board members questions, thoughts on this?
I'll just say one thing. I think when we'll present the other goals for the strategic plan, the outcome goals from the board to Dr. Edwards as the superintendent, I think once we see those, we'll kind of understand these are supportive goals within a framework, en route to achieve those. So I think it'll tie together nicely.
Absolutely. Hand in glove, right? So perfect.
Okay. Well, very good. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and move on now to the approval for the 21-22 work agreements. I'm going to zoom this in because it is tiny. Here you go. I put this forth to the Finance Committee 2 weeks ago and am now bringing it to you for approval. Essentially, the budget that the board approved in March laid out $3,896,396.88 for the budget for salaries. We have 79 positions that have been offered to a tune of $3.7 million. That does include the phase 2 compensation plan. So essentially, everyone who received a work agreement of those 79 positions, there were raises included that were in compliance with phase 2. We do currently have 2 open positions, and we have estimated that cost to be about $80,000. So with that in mind, the total estimated cost as of right now for salaries and budget is $3.8 million, with a surplus of about $49,000. So we still have room within our budget if our 2 open positions do expense a little bit more than $80,000. And just for reference, in 2021, the school year, there were 88 positions, and it was to the tune of $3.9 million. So with that being said, I would kindly ask board approval for these work agreements.
I make a motion we approve the work agreements in support of the budget presented.
Second. Is there a second? Okay. Paul, was that you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any discussion?
Jane, this is Michelle. Just a quick question, just to make sure I understand that what we are, the motion and what we would be approving is the specific number of positions at that particular expense.
That's correct, Dr. Edwards?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay.
I mean, just to make sure I understand what you're saying there, Michelle, and we're not approving the individual contract. We're just lumping them together and making sure those agreements support the budget, and the individual contract is those work agreements are at the superintendent's decision level. Is that what you're asking?
No, well, I'm not sure I understand what you were saying, but I think what I was asking was just making sure that this is what we were approving, these specific positions at that specific budget amount, specific budgeted amounts.
Yeah, we're not making any decisions around individual contracts for individual people. That's, the superintendent's responsibility, right?
So if we've already approved the budget, why are we approving this? I'm just curious.
Exactly.
Because these are contractual agreements in support of the budget.
We have financial. Yeah, sorry, Rodney. We have financial oversight responsibility for her. Basically, she's requesting to be able to spend $3.8 million. So
Right.
We've approved the budget, but she's now asking for permission to spend it. Remember, she's got anytime that any of the admins spend over whatever it's much less than $3.8 million.
Yes.
They have to get our permission. So I think yes, you guys are right that we've already approved the budget, but she's now saying that I want approval to move forward to actually spend the money.
And authorizing her to enter into agreements accordingly.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. That cleared up for everybody? Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward with the vote. I will call the roll. Nicole.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Dawn.
Aye.
Rodney.
Aye.
Robbie.
Aye.
And Paul.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Mhm.
My next request is that we approve the strategic plan that was presented in March. So I'm kindly asking for approval for that as well. We're very excited about it. A lot of really positive response to it. And I'm really eager to get that out into the community.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion for that? And then we can open it up for discussion.
Ms. Booker, so moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Michelle Denning.
Wonderful. Okay. Wonderful. Any discussion?
And Dr. Edwards, do you all have a plan yet how you anticipate disseminating this strategic plan to all our stakeholders, or is that still in the works? I was just curious about that.
Well, I definitely want to share it with our families ASAP. So that'll be priority one. Priority two is sharing it with all of our families that are newly enrolled for August and all of our waitlisted families. And then step three is getting it out to the broader community. That we're not exactly sure we're going to be able to do yet, but we really see this as more of a recruiting and retaining tool. And right now, while we're working through students who are withdrawing and students from the wait list who are making the choice to come to Noose, this is a really fantastic document for them to have to base a decision on.
Any other discussion?
So just so I'm clear, Melissa, the document that you presented tonight, is that a supplement part of what was presented last month for the strategic plan? I got a little confused.
Sure. So the strategic plan that was presented last month is a community-facing document. The document that was presented tonight is really more about you all understanding how we see this playing out and what we are going to be able to achieve in the next 3 years. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that makes sense now. Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, I will call the roll for a vote. Nicole?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Oh, Rodney?
Aye.
Robbie?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. My last ask for the evening is that we need to approve our auditor for the next school year. I spoke with Finance Committee about this 2 weeks ago, about continuing with Jay Sharp and his services. They were in agreement. So I'm bringing this to the board to kindly approve of us continuing with his services for the next year.
And so
Dr. Edwards,
sorry, real quick.
Sorry. Can you remind me of Jay Sharp's, his formal company name?
Sharp and Patel.
Thank you.
And so you're bringing this request on behalf of the Finance Committee?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion? Can I have a motion to consider approve the auditor for the contract for next year?
So moved. Rodney can move and I'll second.
Okay, perfect. All right. Any discussion or questions for Dr. Edwards? Okay, if not, I will move forward with calling the roll for a vote. Nicole?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Rodney?
Aye.
Robbie?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes my portion of the evening.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate all of that great information. We're excited. I know I am, and I feel the whole board is about the strategic plan, the direction that we're headed. We appreciate you and your whole admin team, all the work that's gone into it, and what a great job you've done of sharing all of that with us. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, moving on to the financial report. Benji was not able to attend tonight, so my understanding is that he asked Rodney to provide the financial report.
Yeah, as you have noticed in the documents in the folder, the level 4 and level 5 budgets are in there. just the highlights. Month-to-date revenue was right at $787,000. Our month-to-date expenses against that budget were about a little over $655,000, which is a month-to-date surplus of right at $132,000. Our year-to-date revenues are right at 6.5 million. Our year-to-date expenses are just under 6 million at 5.9. So currently at a run rate for the year, we're tracking at right at $630,000 in surplus. We're sitting total cash accounts across all of our savings as well as our operating account. We're a little over 2.5 million in cash on hand to finish out the year. We discussed the cap dev proposal that Dr. Edwards brought to the Finance Committee, just from a budgetary affordability issue, which we approved, fitting within the budget. I think she was going to bring that up for approval later. And that was it.
Great. Any questions for Rodney about the financial report? Okay. All right. Moving on to our standing committee reports. Executive committee did not meet. Finance, I know, just had the financial report. Is there anything else from the finance committee that needs to be shared? Okay. Academic affairs did not meet. Resource development, Paul, did resource development meet? No.
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, then moving on to board development, Michelle.
Yes, the nominating board development committee did not meet, but the nominating committee has met 3 times. We met on March the 29th, April the 20th, and again on April the 21st. We were in the process of working on our new board member nominations. The interviews were held on April the 17th, 2021. The interview committee consists of Jane Jackson, Nikki Nowinski, Dr. Edwards, myself, and then community member Stephen Walker. And I'll just say he was a great asset to the interview panel as well. He used to serve on the State Charter School Advisory Board, and is now as an attorney with private practice, representing charter schools and working on legislative lobbying on behalf of charter schools as well. So he was a great asset to the interview panel. Following the interviews on April the 17th, the nominating committee met April the 20th and again on April the 21st to consider the nominations. And the nominating committee has unanimously recommended, there were 3 applicants, and of the 3, the nominating committee unanimously has recommended 2 of those, Jason Gipe and Dr. Jennifer Cerve Roberts. And that their information is in the Board of Directors BOD documents. Their applications and resumes are in there as well for review and consideration by the board. They will need to be voted on at our next board meeting in May. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. And thank you for leading that process, Michelle. Really appreciate it. Thank you to the interview committee and the nominating committee, both of whom I worked really, really hard on this. And so the information is in our shared drive. We need to take a look over the course of the next month at all of the information and then come back to our May meeting prepared to vote on the recommendation of the nominating committee. Thank you. Okay, our standing strategic planning committee did not meet. Robbie, did facilities committee meet?
We did not.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to our ad hoc committees. Nicole, anything from the systematic oversight calendar committee?
No, just again, I'd like to thank Dr. Edwards for being very conscientious in using the document and constantly helping me to amend it. And I encourage you all to review it as well. If there's anything that needs to be considered on a yearly basis that's not on there, please let me know. And I thought it would be good idea every month just to remind you of what will be coming up the next month. In May, we'll be looking at, again, voting on new board members and board member orientation. Thank you.
Great. I love that idea. Thank you for, I think it's wonderful if you can remind us of what's coming. I often don't know what's coming tomorrow. So happy to hear what's coming in May. So thank you for that. All right. Policy committee, Dawn, did you all meet and do you need to share anything?
No, we have not met. Let's Paul have something. I apologize that I did not make any substantial progress right now.
Oh, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
You guys have,
well, I really
we
did.
a lot last time.
I asked Jane for the Google link because she gave me a great Google tutorial to figure out. But I unfortunately left the documents on another computer, and now I'm at home and I don't have that computer. I don't have stuff on my hard drive on this computer. So I apologize for being unprepared for that. But by the May meeting, the question was, I guess, board policies that have already been approved that are just being reformatted, do they need to be reapproved? Like, I'm not changing anything. I'm just literally cutting and putting it into the new format.
No.
Okay.
We've already voted on those.
Okay.
So we should be good.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. That sounds great.
Paul, did you have any update or anything?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Moving on. Unfinished business. Paul, motions log. Still plugging away.
We are in 2016 now.
Hey,
We have
that
made
is
it
significant progress.
2013 to 2016. And
wonderful.
Soon we'll be into the present. Who knows? So.
Wonderful. Appreciate it. Okay, that's really good news. And at some point, even before it's complete, do you think if there were a question about something that we could look back at least at what you have up to this point?
Yeah, and I'll be glad to show it to you right now if you'd like to see it.
Oh, okay, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. So,
Paul, is it in any shared drive?
yeah, it is. And so let me go here and share it with you. Are you able to see that, or have I not yet done something I should do?
We can see it.
Oh, you can see it now?
I can see it, yep.
So as you can see, we're through 2016 here. Some of it was kind of interesting. Not all of these PDFs were OCR on it. Object, what's it? Characters, character recognition on it. And so what we've done here, as per talking with Dr. Carpenter, is having the date, and then we've got the motion done. I need to go through and throw some tags on it, but I wanted to go through and figure out all the different kinds of motions we had before we throw, so we have some more common tags. But it's also done in a sort. So you can always come up here, and if you wanted to look at all of Chris's, it will take and pull up these. But see, it's not grabbing them all, so I don't know what's going on there. I'm not used to using this Google kind, but that's it, and it is located. It's located here. I'll take and put it on the. It's not actually. It's on my drive actually, so I'll take and throw it into the shared drive there too. So
that'd be great. Thank you. That looks wonderful.
Sure.
I'm excited that you're making progress. I know it's a tedious job, and I really appreciate you doing that.
It's fine. It's just a lot to go through, and then once it's there, to try to figure it out so it can best be sorted as well. So
Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you very much for doing that. We appreciate it, and we'll look forward to watching your progress as you move through the years. Thank you. Okay, our ad hoc strategic planning committee, I know did meet, and again, Benji is chairing that effort, but since he's not here, Rodney, can you share with us an update?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me present.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, can everybody see it? The document?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, yes, I'm presenting for Benji. He was offline tonight. So we did meet a final time to hash out a couple of the other categories. It was myself, Jane, Dr. Carpenter, and Dr. Edwards. If you remember reading the book by Dr. Carpenter, it's really about measuring performance comes in both sometimes relative and absolute measures, and then there's outcomes that you can recognize that are not traditionally measurable. And so after a couple of iterations, where we landed in the relative performance goals, and this was in consultation with Dr. Edwards and what, thought she was, attainable, but yet pushed the organization and stretched them a little bit too. So in the relative performance goals, the target was set that News Charter School would rank in the top 25% of K-12 charter schools in the state of North Carolina by the school report card grade by the end of 21-22. The goal was that we'll rank in the top 10% by the 23-24 school year. And then based on just the state assessments as defined, we would be a B-rated school by the end of the 21-22 school year. Those encompass of our relative performance goals. From an absolute performance, where it actually gets down about the effect of every student, is that our target would be 75% of all of our students would have grade level proficiency, which means they would score 3, 4, 5 on the end of G and EOG and EOC state exams. Just one caveat there is, given that there were no, EOGs, EOCs last year, we had some good dialogue about the MAP data and the MAP data as a predictor of how students would do. Given that we had the MAP data in the fall, really doesn't represent the progress that the students have made throughout the year. So we just put like a bullet here that says, we say 75%, but we really want to see the spring MAP data that's being conducted now and go back and just kind of correlate that back to where these students really are and whether or not that 75% number still stands. So since we don't have the EOGs from last year, we want to kind of use the MAP data to base it for, and we're waiting on the spring data to come out of that one to actually just finalize that 75% number for the absolute performance goals. And then, as we always see in our traditional methods for school growth goal, that, how the state maps it against our EVAS data is that NCS will meet or exceed the school growth standard. As most of you are aware that last year we did not meet those growth goals for the state report card. And then in section 4, as Dr. Edwards had referenced in the strategic plan, it's kind of back to the same concept when we talked about those learning outcomes that Dawn had championed before, that there are these traits that we want our students to model. And so we include those in there, but you'll see this is what I was referring to. There's no exact number associated, but it's kind of one of those things where you would know it when you see it kind of thing. And so, we want our staff and our community members and our parents all be collective coaches, everybody involved, right? That we work collectively together to make sure the portrait of an NCS student, as Dawn would like to say when they walk across the stage, that we would say, hey, they are a good communicator, they're a good collaborator, and they represent these qualities, for our students. So this is after a number of rounds and working with Dr. Carpenter, this is where we landed in support of the strategic plan. And these are the goals that represent, from the board to Dr. Edwards. So as we look at the performance evaluations, the goals and measures, this is the level at which we would be having oversight and accountability. And then those other things and measures within that strategic plan that her staff and plan achieves to achieve these, is kind of what we've been terminology as those below the line goals.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for presenting that, Rodney. So really, in Dr. Carpenter's language, what Melissa presented with the strategic plan is the how will, and what this is the how well we will do that. Dr. Carpenter, thank you so much for all of your help with this. Do you have any further information you'd like to share with us on this?
Thank you, Board President Jackson. Yeah, actually, I want to just give you all a little moment of inspiration. I'm going to share something that I just learned today and tie it directly to this. So I create Google alerts on all of my clients because I want to know when they're in the news. Usually they're in the news for reasons that I need to call them about something, like something went wrong. But this morning when I was scrolling through my alerts, I saw that you guys have heard me many times now in our relationship this year talk about York Preparatory Academy. So K-12 charter school, 1,600 students, single campus, not really dissimilar from Noose in a lot of respects. Maybe not quite as rural, but still quasi-metropolitan by virtue of its proximity to Fort Mill. Want to just hold this up as an illustration of what's possible. So in the 15-16 year, when I said, yes, I'll be the interim, and we started by writing a strategic plan just like this, they were a C+ school, according to the state, but had they were only 0.4 of a point from being a B- school. So effectively, if we just give them the benefit of the doubt, there's always measurement error. Let's call it a B- school because I don't want to, distort the picture. But they were on a corrective action plan for various blunders that they had made in dealing with their special populations, and the authorizer had told them at that point, kind of off the record, but still, if your authorizer says to you off the record, you're not on a trajectory to get your charter renewed, it really behooves the board, to pay attention to that. And so I went in and did some things in the year, and at the end of that year, we moved off that B- and immediately shot into the top 10% of the state. So I left mostly at that point just feeling, whew, bullet dodged, because I'm this, running around the country writing books and telling schools how to do this, and it would have been really embarrassing to, get to the end of the year and the school performance would have worsened. But the good news is really what happened after that. So you guys have heard me say this, that a school leader can only be as effective as his, or in this case, her board allows her to be. And this is a message that I have stated many times and in many different ways to the York Prep Board, and they've taken it to heart, much as you all are doing, and I'm very encouraged. I just want to tell you, I'm very encouraged by the questions that you're asking at this meeting and the questions that you're not asking, because you're making huge progress, in my opinion, as a board, away from co-managing the school and to really a governance posture. Anyway, York Prep today, I found out actually before they did, which always amuses me, made the U.S. News and World Report's best ranked high schools. That's what they look at, high schools and colleges. And I looked at their data, rough cut calculation, that puts them in the top 10% of all public schools in the country. So how's that for a relative performance goal? They're in the top 1% of all high schools, all public high schools in South Carolina, and in their district, in the district that authorizes them, sort of the equivalent of NCDPI. They are actually the #1 ranked high school out of 15 high schools in South Carolina. And making the U.S. News and World Report, that's something I've never been able to do. So I called the school leader, Dr. Edwards' equivalent, and just said, man, my hat is off to you, brother, because that is that's like a gold medal. Like, that's just amazing. But how did it happen? Well, let's set the table. First of all, it didn't happen overnight. It took them roughly from the beginning of the 15-16 school year till now, or till last year, really, because it's based on last year's data. So call it 5-6 years time. but they've been progressing. Each year gets better, right? So at the end of my year, we moved from a B minus to the top 10%. And then Mr. Myra came in and they stayed in that top 10% and got recognized the following year. And then the year after that, they became a federal blue ribbon school, which is an award you get from the Department of Ed. And then all these other things, and they got their charter renewed. And the same authorizer that told them, you're in danger of not being on the trajectory. When they did finally renew their charter in 2019, they've now asked the school to replicate. So now this basically failing school, not a complete and utter failure, but just lackluster performance, this failing school is now, as of today, in the U.S. News and World Report, as one of the best high schools in America. And if, well, there's a lot that goes into that, but if I was trying to pare that down into 2 sentences that explained it, I would simply say this. Sentence number 1, the board has thoroughly shifted from co-managing the school to governing it, because co-management just doesn't work. And number 2, they have a capable school leader, just as you do, and the leader is able to be maximally effective because the board isn't trying to manage the school alongside him. And so the trajectory that you guys are on right now, I'm very encouraged about, as I said, about what I'm observing and hearing in the committee meetings and in my discussions with Board President Jackson and conversations with Dr. Edwards and so forth. Very, very enthusiastic about the direction this ship is now moving. And if you stay the course, I look at these goals, which I helped you, target, and I look at that, and in my mind, I know these are actually a floor. The ceiling is where you can be headed if you stay the course. So we just wanted to share that success of another client that went through very much the same process. I know it's heavy lifting in these early phases and doing things differently, but kudos for being on the track that you're on and stay the course. And in 5 years or less, I hope to be uncorking a celebratory Diet Dr. Pepper and lighting a cigar in your honor for making the U.S. News and World Report. Thank you, President Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you for that. What a great story. And, I think you're right. I think especially at the beginning of work like this in any organization, school or not, it can feel a little overwhelming and daunting. You see a big mountain in front of you, and it's really nice to hear about another school that's very similar to ours, that was in a very similar situation, that has climbed the mountain and planted their flag, and that it really is phenomenal to be in the U.S. News and World Report. So thank you for sharing that. Rodney, did we need to take any action on those outcome goals?
Yeah, but we've definitely got to vote on this, because this is the bar by which the superintendent evaluation will be done. I guess the only kind of question is we need to reset number 2 based on the stream map data. So we can approve it now and contingent upon that number possibly changing as an amendment. But other than that, we need to approve it.
Okay. Rodney, question. So it sounds like that this document is not included within our strategic plan that was presented in March that we just approved. Is that right? It's not included.
That's correct.
Okay. And can you pull that back up again and explain again what the amendment would entail to the document?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
While he's doing that, Nicole, this is just remember when we started talking about redoing the strategic plan, we bifurcated what was going to be done, the how will, which is what Melissa presented, and these are then the overall school goals that are going to measure how well they get done. And ultimately, I think, and Rodney touched on this, ultimately these are school goals, but they also become Dr. Edwards' goals. Yeah, Dr. Carpenter?
Yes, thank you, President Jackson. Just one suggestion. The word goal is a word that trips schools up a lot. And so in striving for maximal clarity, I would encourage you to replace it with the word outcome or strategic outcomes, in the sense that, yes, they are goals, I get that, but in the sense that the word outcome without the word goal makes a clear distinction that we're not talking about processes at the board level here, we're talking about actual outcomes. Whereas Dr. Edwards's goals of, 90% of teachers will be in this place on the rubric, those are more fittingly called goals. It's a little closer to clarity of meaning. So I would just recommend that you all call this strategic outcomes for the 2021 NCS strategic plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think, and also that's a good call. I think let's just retitle that part to NCS strategic plan outcomes, because it's not just 2021, right? It's a multi-year strategic plan outcome, but we'll just change that title. But what I was referring to, I think it was Nicole, was look at number 2, the absolute performance goals. We want to set a target for our EOG and EOC percentage of student proficiency. It's just there were none for last year because they didn't do them, and so
Rob,
we didn't.
Sorry to interrupt. Could you enlarge that by about 100%, please?
Good. Thank you.
Is that better?
Good.
Okay. Yeah. So for number 2, what we did is we're waiting on the spring map data that they're doing testing on now, because that map data is a projector or indicator of how the students would have done for this year as we set the goal for next year. So we're saying 75% based on some historical numbers we've had, but we'd like to really get that one finalized once the map data is done, which they're actually doing as we speak.
That was going to be my question, Rodney. Do we know, and maybe Dr. Edwards can speak to this, do we know when we would have that data accessible so that we could adjust this goal and be more specific?
For the spring map data, we should have everybody tested and closed out by the end of this week. Takes a couple of days for all of that data to calculate. I don't foresee it taking more than about 2 weeks. We just didn't have it in time for tonight.
So theoretically, you could have that data. The ad hoc strategic planning committee could meet and adjust this goal. We could change the title and then bring it back to the board in May for a vote. Rodney and Dr. Edwards, theoretically, we could do that.
Yeah, I already just changed the title.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
On the document, I went into the.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I changed it in there. And if it matters, the 75% is we're not going to drop that. My intent is that 75 doesn't go lower. And if our map data indicates that we need to push it higher, we would push it higher. I don't know if that piece of information helps you all or not, but 75 is
in the committee meeting, Dr. Edwards, didn't we say a minimum of 75% of students?
We did, but we weren't sure what Matt was going to show us, and if we needed to change that 75 to 80. So
I hear what you're saying. So you would not drop it down to 65 or 70. 75% is the lowest that goal would be set at.
So maybe what we could do then is just say a minimum of 75%. And then really the map data may not actually impact that number then, because if we're saying a minimum of 75%, we could reevaluate it at some point and push it higher, but we're not going to drop it lower.
Right. And the other thing is that if we say a minimum of 75% will meet this and we end up with 80 or 85 or whatever, then for the following school year, we'll be able to adjust that that goal.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not, are you saying that then that perhaps we can just leave it and not adjust it after the map data?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Rodney,
I'm good.
you're good with that? Okay.
And
All
I
right.
just
So,
adjusted it in the folder. I can share it with you all if you want to see it.
okay, that'd be great.
Rodney,
can you? Yeah, thank you.
And where, can you all tell me where in the shared drive it's saved?
It's in the April folder.
Okay.
Outcome goals, but I changed this. And then I put in a minimum of. If that's helpful.
Sorry, I was talking and I was muted. Do we need to take out that last sentence then, final highlighted target to be determined? Okay. All right, so based on these adjustments then, I will entertain a motion to adopt these outcomes for the new charter school strategic plan for the 2021-2022 school year. Do you need it bigger? Does anybody, maybe Dr. Edwards, could you make it bigger? Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jane, this is Michelle. So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second. It's Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Any discussion or questions? I know it's a lot of data, so I'm just making sure.
Dr. Edwards, can you just scroll up?
Okay, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you.
Nicole, are you good? Okay. Yes?
I am.
Request to be recognized.
Yes, Dr. Carpenter.
It's a small thing, but I'm really big on words and clarity. I would drop the words strategic plan unless your authorizer requires you to approve a strategic plan, which is, a lot of times authorizers don't really understand even what they're asking you to do because they don't make any distinction between the how will and the how well. Mm-hmm. And what I would call this are the strategic outcomes for News Charter School, which the board is approving for the reasons that you said. And then in that sense, it integrates or it becomes integrated with the strategic plan because now your superintendent is taking the strategic outcomes and telling you, here's how we will do this. And so in effect, you're not really approving a plan. In fact, I think you and I had a conversation where I said I would go ahead and recommend that you approve the plan once she has it finished. But ordinarily, I wouldn't advise a board to even approve a bunch of how will plans. I think in your case, as you make the transition, continue making the transition, I think it's important to benchmark it that you did approve it. But I really like the clarity. But I want you all to be comfortable with it. I don't want to, overly impose my conceptions upon the way that I think it works best.
I think it makes sense to call them strategic outcomes, and then they sort of stand alone, but then also dovetail nicely with the strategic plan that Dr. Edwards and her administrative team have created. Does anyone have concerns about that change? All right, any further discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, I will call the roll for a vote. Oh, Sorry.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, can you put it back up one more time?
Yes.
Sorry.
Did we
All
have a
right.
second?
We did have a second. Paul seconded.
Given that are we still fine with leaving the term goals in for 1, 2, and 3 and on down, where we changed took the goal out? Are we fine leaving goal in
I
for
see what
1,
you're
2,
saying.
3?
So you want to put goals, relative performance outcomes. Okay.
I'm just bringing it up to see if that's.
I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right that we should be consistent in the language that we use.
Actually, I don't even think you need any word following the like relative performance. I think will stand by itself, and see what you think about that. And then maybe in the title there, board approved strategic outcomes, or when this is approved, assuming the board approves it, I would recommend that the board secretary sign and date this document and include this in the board's documents as something that has to be kept track of for future reference.
Okay, thank you. All right, did we take goals out, Melissa? I'm sorry.
We did.
The fourth one, did we take out outcomes? Do we still need outcomes there?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, one more time. Comments, questions, thoughts? Hearing none. Okay, I'm going to move to calling the roll for the vote. Nicole.
Approve.
Michelle.
Aye.
Dawn.
Aye.
Rodney.
Aye.
Robbie.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We have strategic outcomes for the school. Thank you all very much for that and for the thoughtful discussion. Moving on to new business. We I would like to propose an ad hoc committee be established for the purpose of work evaluation to develop the process, review actually the process that has been used in the past, and work on establishing a process that is in alignment with everything else that we've been doing, with all of the other changes that we've been doing, to be very transparent and clear. This evaluation process this year the evaluation will be measured against the goals that Dr. Edwards was given when she came to the school a year ago. And then moving forward, the evaluation will be measured against the outcome goals that we just established. And so I think it's important that we create an ad hoc committee to create a process for that, sort of an overarching process, as well as to begin the process of the evaluation for Dr. Edwards for this year against those goals, and then bring a recommendation to the full board for approval in closed session at our June meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to create this committee, and then we can have a discussion.
So moved.
Thank you, Nicole. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, discussion and questions.
Jane, I apologize. You were going in and out. It may have been my computer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's probably me. I've been having problems today. But so to be clear, you're looking for an ad hoc committee to create some type of evaluation, or to evaluate Dr. Edwards for her performance for this year based on the goals that we gave her when she was hired. And then the committee would then also go forward to evaluate her in future years regarding the outcomes that we just approved today. Is that correct?
Yeah, they would create a process for the evaluation moving forward. And since it won't be a standing committee, I think we would need to create the ad hoc committee each year to do the actual work. But this year, the goals would be twofold. One would be to establish the process, and then and also do the work of the creating the evaluation and bringing that forward, bringing a recommendation forward to the full board for discussion in closed session, and then next year we would need to, I think, create another ad hoc committee to do the work of the evaluation. I think that would, in my mind, that's sort of how the process might work. But again, it needs to be something that the full board agrees with. Other questions, comments? Did I answer you? And was I breaking up? I'm sorry if I was.
No, that answered my question. So the strategic outcomes for new charter school that we just approved won't be a tool that we use this year.
That's correct.
Okay.
The tool that we will use this year are the goals that were given to Dr. Edwards in her contract that she signed in May, or prior to joining us May 1st of last year, which has almost been a year. Yay. Other questions, comments? And we had a vote and we had a motion and a second. So if I could, I will call the roll to vote on the creation of the ad hoc committee. Nicole.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Dawn.
Aye.
Rodney.
Aye.
Robbie.
Aye.
And Paul.
Aye.
Okay, wonderful. Motion carries. So we have an ad hoc committee that has been established to work on the process for our superintendent evaluation and to work on the actual evaluation for this year. And I would like to ask and sort of potentially put on the spot Michelle and Dawn to see if you would be willing to serve on a newly established ad hoc committee for the board.
Yes.
Thank you, Dawn. I know you've led this over, over several years, and so I think your perspective would be great. Thank you,
Okay.
Michelle.
Yes,
Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, thank you.
Only because you asked me nicely, Jane.
Yes,
Okay,
you
well,
did
thank you.
ask
I'll
very
remember
nicely.
that. All right, wonderful. Okay, so we can talk offline about trying to get started on that. Thank you to the board for voting for that, and we'll like I said, we'll report out in closed session in June. Okay. Ongoing board development self-assessment. We don't have anything specific to that this month. Next month, we will, I think, have a micro training again, so that will be great. And we do not need closed session this month. So that is always good news. So if there is nothing further, having completed the agenda for this board meeting, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved by Robbie.
Thank you,
Second,
Robbie.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul. I'm assuming there's not going to be a lot of discussion on this one, so we can move to calling the roll. Nicole.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Dawn.
Aye.
Rodney.
Aye.
Aye.
Robbie.
Oh, aye.
Thank you, Robbie. And Paul.
Aye.
Wonderful. Motion carries. This News Charter School board meeting for April 27th, 2021 is officially adjourned at 7:20 p.m. Thank you all very much for your service and for all of your help. I hope everyone has a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Great
Good
meeting.
night.
Good night.